Hey, good morning, folks. I'm live. It's Sunday morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of you who are here. And let me just readjust a couple of things here. Let me get that mic out of the way. Still picks up down here. Just going to get it out of my face. There we go. Boom. Voila. We're here. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And let's see who all's here. I saw Niall. I saw you're here. Good to see you, brother. And let's see, Matt Finn. Good to see you too, as well. I got all the sun pouring in my window this morning over there, so it's nice. The lighting's different in here when I got all the sunshine coming in. Let me get my lights up there. So good morning, Teresa and Chad. Good to see you guys. Darth, good to see you as well. Roger Rabbit, I haven't seen you for a while, off and on. Hope you're doing well, brother. And so good morning to you all. Let's see, have I missed anybody? Chase is in there. Chase was in here first thing. So it's funny, I see my face and I go, wow, I've been awake for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And yet my face is not awake yet. I think it was a long day yesterday. I'm tired. I could go sleep in. But yeah, I got up at 6 o'clock. It's now 9 o'clock. So in that 3 hours, you'd think I'd be awake by now. So my brain, or my face at least. Twisted, good to see you. Nice to have you here. Hey, Audrey, where it is 7 o'clock in the morning out on the West Coast. And Niall, what is it? It's 3 in the afternoon over there in Ireland. So you're way ahead of us all. I got to back this thing off a little bit. I feel like it's right up in my face. There we go. All right. So what's going on, everybody? I don't have much going on this morning. My brain's not all here, which is normal for Sunday mornings these days, I think. Burning it at both ends during the week. By the way, I do want to announce this morning that after this program, it's not really a program this morning, after our little live stream and our chat here this morning, Reuben FastHorse has his class that he does in Native American studies, Native American language, things like that. And it's via Zoom, so you can join either audibly or visually. And I'm going to see if he sent me a link here yet. No, he has not quite yet. Let's see. Oh, he said no class today. He just messaged me. Okay. I'm just going to tell him was just announcing it. All right. So sorry, I was just going to announce something that now is not going to happen. Reuben FastHorse's class. So that's not going on today. I keep looking down and over because of the chat room and the video. The camera's up there. So I want to make good eye contact with you. So Reuben is not having his class today. I was going to announce that. So maybe next Sunday or the Sunday after that. He usually does every other Sunday with that. And he does little Native American history, a little Native American language revival, things like that, Lakota. And so it's too bad he's not being able to do that for you today. Camping and kayaking for you, only in my dreams, says Niall. And somebody's calling somebody's phone somewhere. I don't know if you hear that. I do. Somebody's got a phone around here somewhere. Hold on. Follow the sound. Well, it stopped. Hang on. certainly can't be this. All right, how's this for riveting time on air this morning? There was a phone ringing here somewhere, and it's not my phone, and it's not the computer, but I don't see another phone anywhere. The kids have our old phones that we let them use. They can get online while they're connected to internet in the house wirelessly. They don't dial. They're not real phones, but or they're not connected to a phone plan, but they can use them to get online. So I'm assuming somebody, and that was a ring that sounded like somebody ringing into a like a Facebook Messenger ring, but now I don't see that. So I don't know where that was coming from. Anyway, doesn't matter. All right. So we're back. Very disjointed beginning this morning. Hey, Steph, I see that you're here. Nice to see you this morning. What's good, peeps? Oh, not this circle of death thingy. What circle of death? Certainly not here, I hope. So here, this is why everything is, it's so crowded back here. I got my bookshelf is there. Oh, there's my back scratcher. So I got bookshelves there and closet over there. I'm in the corner of this office room. Big office goes that way. All the bookshelves over there. Rainy studio over there. So, without all my little logos and things, it seems kind of naked. I could turn on my blue light. Hold on. Boom. All right. So, so far, nothing riveting here yet, folks. We'll get there. We'll get to the riveting. Maybe. I hear you, Steph. It's crazy all the time. It's crazy here, too. I spent yesterday, I don't know what your guys' Saturdays are like. It's always nice to have one day a week to do absolutely nothing. You know, kind of fuck off if you want. Pardon my French, on a Sunday morning. But yesterday was did kind of a lawn day, but it wasn't all day, just a few hours. And my son and I mowed the grass. Cost me $15 to have him help. Didn't really cost me that. I like to give him a little bit. And I told him, you can take whatever's in my wallet. And I knew there wasn't much in there. It was $15 in there. So he got $15 for helping on the lawn yesterday. But he did a lot. He mowed half of our big lawn and with the push mower. And he also spread weed and feed all over the grass for me. So that's good. You like the bluish light? I do too. Maestro look. I've got if I could focus this in so I don't pick up all the junk back there. Like when I do radio, I'm usually up about like that. So, and then I got logos over here. So it blocks all of this stuff out, you know, doors and things like that. And ceiling and lights strategically placed. So, hey, Tracy. Nice to see you here this morning. Hope I haven't missed anybody who's in here so far. And I suppose I better start delivering here. Durwood, I saw you. Yeah, I was under the desk like a Clinton aide. Very good. So I better start delivering here so you all get a little something out of Sunday morning as I built up the expectations every week. We'll do a couple readings a little later on as we get rolling here. I don't know what you all think about politics. I get tired of politics. How do you talk about current events anymore without hitting on politics? It's like everything in our lives these days seems to be all focused around politics. And it's so tiring. And Um, I'm done talking politics. I hate it. But it's everything that's around us. It's COVID, as health issues, which of course all links into politics these days, which is too bad. Everything's got to be politics. So when there is somebody's political career can be affected by a pandemic, because they're supposed to either be making the right decisions or they're making the wrong decisions, then pandemics become politics. Because everybody wants to use the pandemic one way or the other for political gain. And it can't just be, look, we're doing our best job. We're trying to make this work. There's always got to be criticism here toward that group or criticism toward that group. This person's stuff is right. That person's stuff is wrong. And you got to wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask. There's no conclusive data on masks. Fauci comes out and says, masks are ineffective. Everybody else says, wear a mask or you could possibly share your germs with me and I could get the virus from you. I wear a mask for other people, is the thing. And it's like, oh, stop virtue signaling. Here's my mask. This is what I use when I go out, mostly because I don't like wearing masks. I've got a little bit of asthma and I don't like to. So, that's what I do. I tie her up and then take her down when it gets a little too much. I don't like wearing masks to begin with, of any kind. I don't like wearing masks on Halloween. So, how come they don't put into place that it's required not to be an asshole? Yeah, it's sad. You can't legislate assholism or anti-assholism. Assholes exist all the time, everywhere, and that's too bad that's there. Niles says there's a low-level anxiety creeping in again because the second wave of clusters is creeping back into this country. You're talking Ireland, I'm sure, with a different demographic, 25 to 45 years old this time, was 80 plus. Now they're saying here that they think that they are closing in on a vaccine for all of this. Some of the information I get is my daughter's husband, his father, so my daughter's father-in-law, he's a physician, and his medical group has been chosen to run trials on this stuff down in South Carolina. So they get some pretty close-handed information from him, and he's pretty confident in what they're doing. So I have no idea other than that. I don't have any information on it. Hey, Barbara D., how you doing? And so the cluster, I don't know. Is the COVID-19 a variation of, it's Reuben FastHorse calling me. I got to let him know that I'm doing radio. Oh, I think I answered. Hey, Reuben, I'm doing my show live right now. So I may have just cut it off. I'm not sure. I was just going to type you a message. Folks, can you still see me? Talking to Reuben FastHorse over on Messenger. Yeah, I think they still see me. So hang on here, Reuben. I don't know if I can patch you in. That would be interesting. Let's see. Where are you? I don't know if I can do this or not. Because I'm live on Messenger or on Facebook. So say hey to everybody, Reuben.
Hey. Hello, how are you?
There you go. I don't think they can see you, but I've got your call in here anyway. And it's almost like having a live guest on Sunday morning. Folks, can you hear Reuben? Yeah, everybody's saying hello to Reuben. So they hear you.
Sounds good. Well, it's rainy over here in Warwick, New York, and it's nice. It's a change of pace.
Yeah.
COVID is still everywhere. So everybody masks and gloves on and whatnot.
I saw a guy with almost a a gas mask on it yesterday, and he had the big tubes coming out of it, and he had goggles, and he had big gloves, and I was just showing everybody I'm walking around with this, you know. So
right.
and usually like this. So so hey, give us a little bit of something. I've been doing most of my audience here on Sunday mornings, and folks, I'm sorry you can't see him because I can't patch him live into my YouTube stream. But you know, I've been doing this very lengthy series on Native American history, the Native American version of the history of the taking of the American West. And I've been using as a guideline a lot of D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee.
Oh, very good.
Excellent book. And it's heart-wrenching to go through a lot of this material because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we've worked our way up to about 1780. And we've gone through the Southern Cheyenne and their demise. We've gone through the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Kiowa, the Sioux, all the different tribes of the Sioux, how they got moved into the Powder River country, and then that got closed down. We've gone through the Little Bighorn, the Greasy Grass. We've gone through the fallout of all of that. We've been doing this for about 6 weeks now. And so I keep saying to people, I'm going to get set up live so I can get Reuben FastHorse in here. We're going to talk about some of these things. But now that I've got you at least audibly on here, and people can hear you only because I think the mic is going to pick you up a little bit. I'm actually going to turn this so it picks up the speakers as well as my voice. So can you all hear Reuben okay over there? I'll wait for some answers on that to come in. I would love to have,
you know, one of the interesting things, I think, being a Minnesota boy myself for a while there in Eveleth up north, and just the Minneapolis area, Wayzata, that's, you know, where I exist for a while. I lived with you for a while. Mm-hmm. You know, locally stuff, I want to just plug really quick. Mille Lacs Lake was the last battle between the Ojibwa and the Sioux. And we lost, of course, and we moved further south or moved out west. And people don't know that was like 1736 or something like that.
We just
went
through Mille Lacs.
Battles between, people don't know about the battles. Well, they know about the government and the Sioux fighting each other, Little Bighorn, whatnot, but they don't know the skirmishes that we had with the Meskwaki people of Iowa and also the Ojibwa up north, who eventually took over, and they came from Nova Scotia. And their legend or their prophets, I don't know who the prophet was, but the prophecy was, go to the west where the food is on the water, which is wild rice. Mm-hmm. So they came out west with French guns. They took over Michigan, and they took over Wisconsin, and took over Minnesota. And then we finally went west. Another thing I wanted to plug was, there's 2 books that are really good about the history in your local area and out west and Iowa and Wisconsin. Is called Native Roots, and it's a nice read. It's thin. It's not totally, you know, robust like James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans or something like that, but it's a really good insight on Native America. The naming of Native America, the food of Native America, the people. 6 out of 10 Americans are Native ancestry, and the guy, it's called Native Roots, and the second book is called Indian Givers, and it's by a professor at the University of Minnesota, Jack Weatherford, like the car, Weatherford. Mm-hmm. Really good read, and it gives you I was just talking about, you know, the structure of our country is multi-layered. yeah, I keep harping on this with my girlfriend Susie, and the thing here out here, pretty much is Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Of course they do, but all lives matter.
Yeah.
And what about the indigenous people?
I was going to say, what
Where's
does that when a white person says, well, white lives matter, all lives matter, we're called racist. When a redskin, not to use that in the negative vernacular, but a man of red skin, a Native American, when you say, hey, red lives matter, what does that do to the BLM people? Do they consider you then to be racist if you were to say something like that, or do you not? Do you see? Because I say all lives matter, and of course nowadays that's being labeled as racist.
Right. I think it's harder on your part. You're my brother, and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll make you native here in a little bit.
Outstanding. Yeah.
But it's. I feel like I have free control because I am the minority of the minority, in a sense, and black people don't stand up to me. If I stand there and say something to them, I call them black.
Mm-hmm.
I've got black friends, and I call them black, and they don't mind. But a lot of times it's funny because they'll say, you and me in the same boat. You and me in the same boat. And it's like, no, we're not in the same boat.
Yeah.
The best quote I can say is Malcolm X. And Malcolm X said in a TV interview, this government sees the black man as a domesticated animal. And this government sees the red man as a wild animal. But the difference is the wild animal has land, timber, minerals, resources. And that's what they've been striving to do. They've wanted to be American. We never wanted to be American. We already knew we were American.
Right. You already were American. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So even the term Redskin, I love the fact that Washington football team has changed, going to change their name. Redskin is really a term. We of course we had red paint.
Yeah.
But we're brown. But redskin is a derogatory term of bounty hunters. So the bounty hunters would hunt other Indians, would be recruited to hunt other Indians and take the scalps. 10 pieces of silver for a native man, 5 for a woman, and 1 for a child, to prove that they were killing Indians. And that's so that's where the term, people don't know that's where the term comes from. But we always wore red paint, and we painted ourselves simply because it was mixed with bear grease and paint, red ochre or something like that, or red earth. And the reason was red is sacred, but also the bear grease was a insect repellent. So
nice.
People didn't know. Yeah.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Smear myself with bear grease. Keep the bugs away. So, yeah, and I was always curious what your take would be on BLM. I tend to have problems with them from political points of view, from their starting point, from a more of a Marxist philosophy that's behind it. Which doesn't always come out. So it takes a little research, a little digging. So I see, and there's, go ahead. Were you going to say something there?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. And so I've never gone along with the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it was based on a fallacy that was made up. The, hands up, don't shoot thing is kind of where that all started with Michael Brown. And so without getting into a critique of BLM, I've had a problem where it's gone, where people have taken it, the things that have happened since then. How does one express? Let me ask you. Let me rehouse this into the Native American movement. for lack of a better, easy way to encapsulate it. When you have issues that you want addressed with the government, when a tribal system has issues, when my understanding of the way the reservations were supposed to work is that they were sovereign nations under the auspices of the federal government of the United States. That's what they were supposed to be, when really all it was just getting them off their land and putting them someplace. That's in essence what they became. They are sovereign nations. I think even up in the Six Nations, up in in your neck of the woods, there are some of those that still require passports to go into the reservations. So with that in mind, that they are sovereign nations, within this sovereign nation, we talked a few weeks ago about the Supreme Court decision in Oklahoma with the man that was arrested. And then the Supreme Court came down and said, and it was actually Justice John Roberts in his decision worded, part of his wording was, the United States needs to keep its word. And he upheld the treaty rights from the late 1800s. And so now what that in essence does, that precedent being set for the Crow Nation is going to affect, I think it's the Kiowa, I think it's the Cherokee. I can't remember. There's 5 of them all clustered in Oklahoma that takes up more than half of Oklahoma. So if that stands and that precedent is set, in essence, all the whites living on those lands are breaking the treaty. And so the American Indians would have the right to, in essence, charge them. Yeah, you can stay here. I said, when we were talking about this, I said, I think you'll see a little better treatment. They're not going to go raid the white settlements now. I said, but I think they will probably say, yeah, you can stay here. We can all live together, but maybe there's a tax that's imposed or something like that because you're living on Indian reservation land. What do you think of all that?
Leasing the land pretty much. And what needs to happen then is the tribes renegotiate and say, we're not going to raid your home or take your property or anything. Just let's renegotiate. So another 99 years of them paying or something like a tax. So you're right. So it's interesting in many ways because you're right. It's the sovereign nation and the Haudenosaunee, the Mohawk, all they made their land to be where you come on our land, you got to show us your passport. This nation, we're a sovereign nation in a sovereign nation, and so tribal law is different from normal law because if you're a lawyer and you want to work for a tribe or be a lawyer, you need to learn Indian law. And the reason why that is because of the treaties, which are international law, and you cannot break in international law. You shouldn't. You can't.
Yeah.
But this government has done it every time. Every treaty they made with us, they broke.
Yeah.
So we can do that in the sense of being a sovereign nation and push our authority, but we are so removed from the rest of the eyesight of the government. So when you find a reservation, sometimes you don't even know you're on a reservation.
Right.
Passing through. So it's out of sight, out of mind. And
you can go even in Minneapolis. You go out. You could be driving through. Where is the big casino? What's the big casino? Shakopee. Yeah, you can be driving through Shakopee. The big. I can't remember the name of the casino. Prior Lake. Mystic Lake Casino out there. You can go driving through Prior Lake. It just looks like you're driving through another western suburb of Minneapolis, but you're on reservation land, and you don't even know it. So unless you miss the sign somewhere, there's a little sign or something that says, reservation land or something like that. So
no, you're right. You're right. So, with the BLM thing, I really don't care for it. I mean, sure. I will say all lives matter, and everybody has a right to say something. But you ask an Indian, we have no connection
Yeah.
I've got two uncles that are half black and half native, but we just want to be sovereign ourselves. We want to, take care of ourselves, look after ourselves. And there's such a public voice for BLM now that it's really kind of annoying for me, because it's like, what about the native people?
Yeah.
And that term itself is not, if you want to know the people, you're going to the Navajo reservation. I'm going to go see the Dene. They call themselves Dene. I'm going to go out west and see the Lakota. My buddy Reuben FastHorse, my brother, he's Lakota. Sioux is just another, term that's been bestowed upon us by the enemy, the Ojibwa, who call themselves Anishinaabe of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And all these terms are just like Lakota means friends or allies. Anishinaabe means original man, first people, First Nation, all that kind of stuff. So you want to know a Native person, know them by their given what they call themselves. So Native American is a term given to us by Congress in the last 50 years. And Congress says if you're Athabascan, Aleut, Inuit, Samoan, Hawaiian, you're Native American. If you're federally enrolled in a tribe like I am, you're Native American. If you've got a little toe with some Indian blood in it, you're Native American. And if you're born in the United States of America, you're Native American. Right. So it's such a diluted term. And American Indian is still a good term to say. American Indian, my brother's American Indian. If I was from India, I would say Indian American as opposed to American Indian. And Indian is not a bad word because it comes from the Latin root word indios. And indios in Latin means of God, from God, child of God. So that's not a bad term. But if you want to know somebody, call them by their tribal name that they would call themselves. And that's the difference between American Indian and Native American. So
I've been trying in this series to name the tribes. I speak a lot about Indian, and somebody asked, well, isn't that a derogatory term? And I said, no, it's not. I said, I actually heard that from the first time from my friend Reuben, who said, Indians are Indians. He says, dot, no feather, or feather, no dot. And so I got that from you, by the way, many years ago.
Oh,
and
yes.
And so I try to go by the tribal names. When we're talking about somebody like, Sitting Bull, we talk about Sitting Bull, but I try to get his real name in there, the pronunciation of his name, something Tonka, something, and I can't. Do you remember?
Tatanka Utica. Tatanka is the buffalo. Tatanka Utica is to sit. And it comes from, I do a lecture, and this, on why Indians have funny names. And it's interesting because from the Cree in Canada all the way down the Central Plains to the Comanche or the Kiowa in Texas, we all have anglicized names, like my name, FastHorse. Right. And people always say, wow, what a cool name. That's interesting, But I would say, if I was to say it correctly, it'd be Reuben Trashunke Luzaha, meaning his horse is fast. And so this whole area of the country of native people is anglicized. But on the West Coast and on the East Coast, it's all still in their native language. And now why is that? I think it's because we put up a lot of fuss with the government and fighting them, from the Crow to the Sioux, the Meskwaki. They call them the Sauk and Fox. And so they renamed us or anglicized our names for more of a control issue. And that's why we have these funny names, like, one of the prettiest names I ever heard of Native Americans is from my tribe, and it's from Kyle, South Dakota. And there's a family called the Whirlwind Horse family. And that's a cool name, I think. And then the worst name I ever heard was a man, he was an old man, native man. His name was Benedict Scabby Face. So there's got to be a story in that.
Yeah,
And
there's
so,
got to be a story there somewhere.
somewhere. So, and that's the whole thing, is that you've got to ask the people their names and where does it come from? How did they arrive at it? And we call these when white men married Native women, their children would be taught by the mother. The first teacher is the mother, and all mothers are first teachers. And she would teach them the native language. So then this child, who's half white and half native, became what we call a Ieska. Ieska means translator. Ieska. Today it means half breed, but they were the Ieskas, and they would be able to speak the language of their mother tongue, and then speak to the native people, but then speak to the white generals and say, his name is FastHorse, but in Lakota it's really, his horse is fast. And so that's how that came about. I think a lot of the language,
that's like a lot of these names that we're coming up with, I pronounce them as best I can when I see them in the native tongue, but phonetically. But names like Man Afraid of His Horses was
right.
A character that was known, and Old Man Afraid of His Horses. And,
Sure.
you have easier names like Standing Bear and Sitting Bull. Crazy Horse, we talked about how he got his name. He, in essence, named himself out of a vision that he had in his dreams of a horse dancing in the wind. And he was dancing that was crazy, not mentally crazy. It was the whirlwind of the craziness of watching a horse dance in the air. And so he took the name dancing, this crazy dancing horse, Crazy Horse. Right. The way it translates into English, anyway.
There is some truth to that. I'm not going to discount you, but from Maria Sandos's book, Crazy Horse, reading that and meeting actually the great grandson out here of Crazy Horse, and I got his book and his autograph and gave him a feather. He talked about how Crazy Horse, there was a senior, his father bestowed the name upon him, Crazy Horse. And it's not like you said, it's not about him being crazy. It's the mad for war, the way the horse gets restless and wants to battle, is where that name came from. And then his father took the name Crazy Horse Senior, gave it to Crazy Horse Junior, or he became Crazy Horse. He took the name Worm, W-O-R-M, just to be humble. But Crazy Horse, I believe personally that he was Ieska. He was a half-breed because his name as a child was named Curly, because he had curly hair. Very, very different for Lakota people because we have black straight hair. And so there must be some type of situation there where he wasn't fully. And I find, speaking as a native man, most Ieska half-breeds are very, they lean towards the native side more than their white side, just to prove themselves. Yes, that I'm Lakota, I'm Anishinaabe, I'm a Meskwaki, I'm native. Don't discount me. And so, the high cheekbones, the large nose, the slanted eyes, full lips of native people, that's the way we look. And I can describe myself that way now. So it's trying to become more native in that sense. And I think that, people of lighter skin, native people, they marry even darker people because they want to keep that going in some way or shape or form. But so the name Crazy Horse and these names in general all come from, like, Man Afraid of Horse sounds like a funny name, of course, in English. But the story behind that is a story I'll tell you now, is that there was my stepfather His name was Robert Man Afraid of Horse.
Oh.
And yeah, it's interesting. So on his bills, his telephone bills, his credit card would be Robert Man Afraid of Horse. And the name behind that means the story he would tell was that his ancestor was a Kichita or Ogichita in Ojibwa soldier or a policeman that took care of the tribe and helped and would patrol the night watch and whatnot. And his story was that Man Afraid of Horse, it was not a man that was afraid of his horse, it was the enemy. So when you saw my great stepfather on a horse, and the enemy would look at him and run away.
So he was the man who people were afraid of him and his horse.
Right.
There it is. Very interesting.
That's the story behind it. So one of the stories, I'm sure there's other things to be said, but Man Afraid of Horse. He wasn't as afraid of his horse. It was the enemy that saw him that was afraid of his horse. So the name in Lakota, Man Afraid of Horse, is Kashunke, his horse, Wakakushni, which is he's not afraid of it. So when the interpreter, the Eska, person who, like Ellis Island, said, "Oh, your name is Johansson. It's now Johnson."
Yep.
That kind of thing went on and said, "Okay, your name, okay, Man of
Robards became Roberts." So,
and that's Irish or Scottish.
Welsh.
Yep. Welsh. Which is interesting because you say that. We talk about the Navajo code talkers, and I did a lecture at Queensborough College in Queens, New York, in regards to that. They also use Lakota, Kiowa, Comanche, and even Welsh.
Yeah.
They even used in World War I. They used as a code talker the Welsh language. So it's interesting you say that.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
These indigenous languages, were used to win the war of some sort.
Yeah.
So
we're looking at the names too as we're going through all these events, the names that the Indians gave the Indian agents and some of the commanders, like they called Custer. They referred to him, a couple of different tribes. One called him Hard Backsides because he was always in the saddle chasing them. And the others called him the long hair because he had long golden hair.
Yellow hair.
Yellow hair.
Or the blue coats. Yeah.
Yeah. They called, there was one agent that really stood and helped them later on in the years. They called him White Hat because he wore a white hat. They had Colonel Three Fingers Mackenzie because he lost a finger in the Civil War. There was one incident that I found rather humorous. There was a general that they called, I think he was called Limps with One Leg or something like that because he had an old injury from the Civil War. And so he limped on one leg, and it had hey, can we be a little quieter, please? Thank you, children. And so it's a occurrence almost every day on my radio show. So he attacked. Yeah, I'm on a show. Rainey didn't even know I was on a show. And so she thought you and I were just talking. But he was called the man who limps with one leg, and then or something like that. And then in battle, they raided a village, and one of the warriors shot him. He says, "And I saw a man who limps with one leg, and I shot him. He shall now be known as man who limps with two legs." so I thought that was pretty good. So there were a couple of. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, with the Civil War, people don't know it, but I do a first-person reenactment of Eli S. Parker.
Yes.
Eli S. Parker was a general Native American general of
Yes.
the Civil War. He was Ulysses S. Grant's best friend, and he was
Yes.
also a civil engineer.
We talked about him in a lot of detail. We had 2 episodes where we covered him and how he, where he started out, how he wanted to be, was it an engineer or no, he wanted to be an attorney, and he went to school and then learned very quickly that he couldn't join the bar because he was a red man, and so he wasn't allowed to practice, and so he became an engineer, civil engineer, started working for the Army, and then worked his way up the ranks and became a general under Ulysses S. Grant. But he was there at the signing of he was the man, it's funny, the Native American man, born Native American, who was the guy who penned the surrender between Robert E. Lee and Grant at the end of the Civil War. And then he went into, he became an Indian head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs in D.C. and was so smeared and besmirched by people politically trying to run him to the ground that he won all the charges against him. But eventually it came to the point where he said, okay, I'm done. Now I'm done. And he just quit. And I think he became very wealthy writing, doing some things like that. He just went into private stuff and he retired and wrote and land invested.
He was also chief of police in New York City.
Yeah.
He took that standing as well, but exactly everything you're saying is he wrote the terms of surrender for Robert E. Lee, Appomattox or
Appomattox.
Yep. And you see a painting. It's interesting you say that because you see an oil painting of Robert E. Lee sitting down and he's scribing something. Obviously, the terms of surrender. And in the background are 4 generals, and 2 of them I don't know, but one of them is Eli S. Parker.
Yeah,
who's Onondaga. We call them Onondaga, but they call themselves Tonawanda up in over Buffalo, New York. I've been on that reservation, but the other general standing right beside Eli S. Parker is General George Custer.
That's right. How ironic is that? So
it's amazing. It's just wow. Only in America, That's why I love this country, because we're all integrated in some shape or form. We all infringe on each other, and for good or bad, unfortunately. But life is what life does. So
one of the interesting things I found so far, not across the board, it wasn't unanimous, but it seemed that a lot of these captains and colonels and these generals who were out there following the orders of the American government, and they were raiding Indian villages. They were indiscriminately killing men, women, and children. They were driving them into the ground. They would collect their ponies and slaughter them all so they couldn't have them. All these atrocious acts against them. Once they were on the reservation, you're coming down, 8 to 10 years later, you're finding some of these men are stepping up and saying I think it was Three Fingers Mackenzie who came up, and he was pretty crude to the Native Americans while they were battling them. And he was one of the ones who came back and said, I have never met a more respectable people than, he was talking about the Southern Cheyenne at the time. And they started advocating within the Army for these people. And they said, look, they're starving. You need to fulfill our word. And they took great risk at getting their careers ended. Anybody who seemed to stand up for the Native Americans in that time got reassigned, or their careers were ended in the military, and or just cut off, and they could never advance anymore. So we've started seeing that as we get later in history now. Some of these men in the 1870s up to 1880 are starting to have a change of heart. It's like they still have to do what the government tells them, but they're resisting more. And
Right.
So it's an interesting thing to see. You know, there were a couple of questions I wanted to run by you. Niall, a good friend of mine over in Ireland, a good friend of the show, he said this. Hang on. He's got a couple of very interesting questions.
It's funny you say he's from Ireland, because every time you watch a show based on Native American, you're watching the same thing with the Irish.
Yeah, and the Scottish clans. And the Scottish clans too, over in
Yep.
You look at the story of the Scottish clan system. We talked about that the other day, and the end at Culloden Moor. And you see the Highland clearances, the outlawing of native dress, native tongue, the Highlands, all that. There's some similarities.
I remember watching the Black and Tans,
Yes.
and then they reduced that,
Niall had asked, what I think is awful about the treatment of Native Americans is that they are, quote, out of sight, out of mind, end quote, consigned to poorly constructed shanty towns, or so it seems. Is that right? What, in your opinion, and what you know and what you see, you come from Pine Ridge and Red Rock. What are the conditions that you see you see some of the city reservations like Prior Lake, wealthy reservation because of the casino, and everybody benefits from that. But you go out into the Dakotas, into the Black Hills, you go into Pine Ridge. What's the average? How are reservations doing? In other words, what's your take on all the poorness and poverty?
It's a good question, and thank you, Niall, as well. In regards to that, it's growing up in the poorest county and city in the United States of America, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And there's so many things against us in that way. The people are divided in many ways. Like in 1973, Wounded Knee happened, Wounded Knee 2, with the overtaking of that. It was because of the Ieska, the half-breeds that knew the oligarchy, the judicial system, the acclamation of funds from the federal government that they did not distribute evenly. They just was very nepotistic, just in their own families and clans. And the people in the outer part of the poorer parts of the reservation are fully native, but not receiving the benefits they should have received from the treaties that we got from the U.S. government, which wasn't much. But so that divided our reservation against each other. So native against native was going on, and family clans and things like that. So it was really difficult at those times. But it's gotten better. There's more people in power that are being more Lakota and speaking the language and institutionalizing that. So we have it come back, saving our culture, saving our people. But we're so far removed. Rapid City is 83 miles away, and that's the nearest stoplight you're going to see.
Right.
Or McDonald's or a cinema or something like that. So it's very different.
There's no McDonald's on the reservation.
Yeah, it's not easy growing up there. But I also knew that being an angry Indian doesn't work as well. And what I mean by that was, I think that I was at one of the Bloomington rendezvous that we used to do.
Yes.
Myself and I, by the soccer fields and whatnot. Long week, hard work, 15-minute sessions, just continuously going.
Every 20 minutes.
And so I was there speaking, and I was telling them the truth of the history of this country and whatnot. And a buddy of mine named Pierre was rendezvous voyager.
Yes.
He stood there and he listened.
Wasn't he also known as One Mock? Didn't he?
There was one mock. I remember him. But Pierre was older.
Pierre.
They call
Okay.
him
Oh, okay.
Blue Frog.
Yes, I
He,
remember.
had, he was a vendor as well. But he came up to me and he said, you know, Reuben, you do a great show, and they need to know the truth. But he said that kid in the first row is probably going to be the next senator or congresswoman. And that's all he said. And I thought about that for a long time. I thought, why am I showing these kids that I'm angry? And I should be talking about things that bring us together.
Right.
And that's the difference with the BLM. I'm kind of addressing too. It's like, let's not just be angry all the time and see angry black woman or angry black man. Let's show them that things are in common. Let's be better than angry and address the needs that are, upon us now, that we need to become together. That's why all lives matter. That's how I see it. So,
boy. Yeah, that's very poignant. Totally different vein. Niall again had said something that I found very interesting. He said, strong link to the paranormal with the reservation police, which confuses me. Native police for native areas. Anyway, they speak of the trickster and the shapeshifter. Some do lectures, etc. Now, there's a lot packed into that. You can talk about these tricksters and the shapeshifters. He said even the native police speak about them. But he said he's a little confused about native police for native areas. And I think that goes with the whole sovereign nation aspect of the... So
yes.
So what? Yeah.
Because we're a sovereign nation, and even in the Constitution, they still call us savages. This day and age, 2020, but we have our own tribal police, which I could become a tribal policeman just by going through a couple classes and whatnot. And then there's BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs Police. They're federal, so we call them federales, as the lesser term. But so there's two forms of police to police us, which is sad. So if you are driving on the reservation, Scotty, and you speed and a tribal police pulls you over, or a BIA federale pulls you over, they can't ticket you because you're in a different country. So they're just going to warn you. But if I drive and I'm speeding down the road, they can arrest me or ticket me.
Sure.
Because I'm native. So the jurisdiction, nobody can, state police, police in other counties, they can't infringe on the reservation and they have no jurisdiction. So if I murder somebody, the FBI comes in and has to deal with it. Also, the chief of the tribe can talk directly to the president without going through congressmen or congresswomen or anything like that. They have just country to country, so to speak, in that way. And that's the difference of being on a reservation. That's why we can have casinos, because we're a nation unto ourselves. And my reservation, Standing Rock up north in North and South Dakota, has a casino in North Dakota and a casino in South Dakota. Yet I don't see any of that money just go straight back into the casino. And that element, people call it the golden buffalo. Oh, the casinos, we're going to get money. Not true, because a lot of that brings in riffraff as well. Bad blood,
I'm
so
sure.
to speak.
Yeah.
Gangsters, people cheating, the system and whatnot. So none of us really get it.
I know there was a story not long ago. Well, it's within the last 10 years. How in Prior Lake, again, bringing up Prior Lake, which is, for those who are not from here, Prior Lake is like a southwestern suburb or small town connected to Minneapolis. And it's in the Minneapolis area. We'll put it that way. You could drive over to Prior Lake. We had friends in Prior Lake. And they worked in the city. Well, Prior Lake has the big casino there, the Mystic Lake Casino. And how that casino, well, first of all, they have the best police force in the nation. the local Prior Lake police force, because it's all run by or funded by the casino and the Native American tribe. And at the same time, every person who lives in Prior Lake who is part of the tribe there, part of the reservation tribe, gets, there was some astronomical figure that they all got paid by the casino every year. It was like $40,000 a month or something like that. Now, I don't know what
they don't have to work. They don't have to work.
And they don't have to work. Yeah, and it's nice. And so if you go to Prior Lake, there's people living in decent houses over there. You don't see the poverty that you might see out in the Black Hills. So, but yeah, it's interesting. So go ahead, Reuben.
No, it's just you're right in saying that the haves and the have-nots, you know, and many of the tribes out west have asked for help, assistance from Prior Lake. And of course, they're Dakota and we're Lakota, and it's just a dialect that's different from us, but we're Sioux. And they've helped us, but they've kind of set the pace for a successful casino, and that's why we all bought into it.
Sure.
A lot of the tribes out west, you know, it's like, oh, let's be like Prior Lake, but you know, it's a different. Shakopee is right next to Minneapolis, and so they've got a lot of resource, a lot of wealth, a lot of, you know, people coming in to gamble and whatnot. But out west, you put a casino in the middle of the prairie.
Yep.
You're not gonna get as much. You're gonna get some ranchers, you know, if you
couple of Indians, couple of ranchers. So
but it's the majority of the people, you know. It's funny because, you know, the three Indian killers, my father used to say, is, and not necessarily in this order, but heart disease, diabetes, which I have, and alcoholism. And those are the, you know, not necessarily in that order. And those people that are no longer on their heart medication or taking care of themselves and not drinking are gambling. Yep. And so the addiction has swung the other way. So now they're sitting in the casino all the time, pulling the, you know, slots and playing cards and whatnot, and all their whole paycheck goes there. So
right,
it's not a cure-all, you know. It's not the Golden Buffalo, the casino, and it's, you know, I'm just going to say real quick too, with the shapeshifters and whatnot, it is very real. I've heard stories myself as a child from my parents and others where they're driving down a dirt road and they see an old couple that are dressed in the old way, overalls and whatnot, and they're walking in the dark. And so somebody pulls over and they say, "Can I give you a ride somewhere?" So they say, "Yeah." They speak very little, very quiet. And, you know, it's a lot of nodding and waving their head no. And then as they're in the car, the guy's trying to talk to him. And then somewhere down the road where there's nobody or anything, they'll say, we'll get off here. And so the guy says, "Are you sure? I mean, I can take you further." And he's like, no, it's okay. And they get out. And so the guy drives off, and in the rear view mirror, he sees two deer jumping over a fence. Two deer jumping over a fence. So the black-tailed deer, which is called the mule deer in South Dakota, western South Dakota, is a shapeshifter. It can change to human or regular and speak the language of Lakota as well as English. So there's strange things that go on that we can't fully explain. And I've been to ceremonies where I can't explain as well. And it's for me, I resign myself to thinking it's okay to not know everything in the world.
Yeah.
It's okay to see the supernatural unfold itself and be amazed by it, and to be reminded that I'm, you know, a spiritual being on a human journey, and to recognize that.
You almost answered my next question. Was going to be, what do you think about that? About the shape shifting, about the I happen to know you well enough to know your spiritual side. I know things that little excursions we've taken to see things like the Wabasha Street Caves, and we took that one tour, that one Halloween. We had when you were living at my house, we had the one Halloween where we had the full moon on Halloween, and
Nice.
I put all my tarot cards out to soak up moonlight, and you had some great words to say about that back then. And so where would you and I have talked about doing 2 books together. One, I approached you a couple of years ago and said I want to write one on Celtic mythology and how it merges with Native American mythology in the fairy folk, the elementals, and things like that. And then you suggested a couple of months ago we should write one with these. We're thinking of these 2 characters, maybe taking us through. Maybe that was my contribution to it. The 2 characters, but talking about short stories or different stories about Native American mythology that people don't know a lot about. And so we're working on these things. At least we're in the talking stage of those. And I said, if I said that to my agent right now, her head would explode because I haven't finished my last one. But so I know you have a spiritual belief. I know that you understand the paranormal side of things. But where are you on all of that? Where are you on shape-shifting? We look at that and we look at it as legendary, as great stories and all of that. If you walked onto a reservation today, now, like I don't know if this is reservation land, but like, you got places like in Utah, the whatever they call that place, the ranch with places down Skywalker Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, Skinwalker.
Oh, sorry.
Not the movie studio. But there's some other places down in Arizona, I think in New Mexico, that have the Skinwalkers.
There's a medicine wheel in Wyoming, and there's sacred spots in the Black Hills. And the Black Hills for the Lakota, the Sioux, are like Mount Sinai. And so there's different points where I've got a tattoo of it to remind me on my thumb, where it's a triangle, and then the point of the top of the triangle is another triangle, but upside down. And so it's 2 triangles touching at the tips. And what that is, it is what is above is below, and what is below is above. And so that's the structure of the Black Hills, is that if we were traveling in the old Indian days of pony and teepees, and we could look to the sky and we can see, there's Black Elk Peak, which was formerly Mount Harney Peak, the highest point, and there is the hot springs, and there is Devil's Tower and Bear Butte. And so what is above is below, and the star structure would show us that. There's the Missouri River. We can see it in our own, they call it naked eye astrology.
Okay.
Astronomy. Sorry. And that's what we did, is that we had our own star structure and our own system, just like the Greeks did as well. Mm-hmm. So that was a way of joining heaven and earth, so to speak, and understanding our elements and our land and whatnot. And so that has a lot of structure of the supernatural. And we just thought of it as a part of nature. It wasn't super, it was just natural.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, I'm not against Christians or anything like that. I was Catholic. I was brought up Catholic. But a lot of, when the government couldn't kill us, they brought in Christianity.
Right.
And they even divided us. Are you going to be Episcopal or are you going to be Catholic? And they didn't associate. And so even within our structure of the reservation, we were divided. Not like that anymore. The Sundance has come back. 1978, we could practice our religion freely. Really? land of the home, free the brave.
Yeah.
Not us. It's sad. So, you know,
You've got
that's
the scars from the Sundance.
the Sundance.
Yeah.
I've never Sundanced myself per se, but I've been to many Sundances and sung at them, shared. My brother's a Sundancer. It's quite a ordeal. It's also quite a commitment to doing this all year round. You commit for 4 years and do that. You either drag skulls from your back, buffalo skulls, or you hang from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And all these ceremonies of Native Americans are strictly for the men, traditionally. So the sweat lodge, the Sundance, all that was for the men. Why? Because women have the power. Men are weak, and we need to go on the Vision Hill. We need to sit for 4 days and 4 nights with no food and water. And doing that, all these ceremonies are geared for the men because, you know, we need help.
Mm-hmm.
As men. We need help.
Sure.
And so we knew that. And so America was a matrilineal, patriarchal society. The women ran the show, and it was the men that were the protectors and providers and whatnot. So it's still that same kind of feeling. But so the women don't have to do ceremony if they don't want to, simply because they create life. They create life and give life. And so it's kind of the scenario there of Native people and the whole structure. And it's all like a spider's web. It's all connected in some way, shape, or form. The web of life, so to speak.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And when man stops seeing themselves in charge and they become part of the web, then everything goes back to normal. So because at the moment we're thinking of that, we run the show and we do this and that. They actually ruined it. The white man started, no offense, but the white man has ruined it because it was already. There's a great T-shirt I remember seeing of an Indian man sitting there with a pipe, and he's saying, you know, this country was once ours, and it was well run because the women ran it. And then the white man came and said, we're in charge, we're running the show, and put women on the side. And now it is what it is.
So how would you answer the question I posed somebody the other day? I said, you know, before I met my wife, I was a pretty well-rounded guy. I'd been around the block a few times. I knew a few things. And once I got married to my wife, I don't know anything anymore. Why is that?
That's a good question.
That question came to me the other day because I was in the freezer and getting some ice cubes, and my wife said, "Now be sure you put that ice cube tray back in the way it's supposed to go." And I'm like, do I not know this?
Oh yeah.
Have I not dealt with ice cube trays since before you were born? But that's neither here nor there. So
no, that's a part of being married, I guess. You know.
Yes, that's marriage.
We are little boys in the end. You know. We are. And you know, if we get over our egos, we're just fine having them run things, than us going out and playing. We're going hunting. Yeah.
Well, Reuben, there's a lot of things. We could go on for a long, long time. But you know what? We should do this again in a couple of weeks. Let's have you on here again. I am working to get my daily show going live with that, where I can take callers and go live. And so we're working up to that. But in the meantime, I think we could do this. People can't see your face, but they can hear your voice today. So it's been great having you on here. And I know you have other things to do other than sit and talk to me. But Rainey just walked back into the room, so she missed all my other comments. So she heard everything up to that point.
Yeah. No, that's great. So hi to Rainey for me and the kids. I was thinking about, I'll post it to you, the Zoom link, but it's every other Sunday. It's usually the first Sunday or the third Sunday of the month. I have my show at noon Eastern time, from noon to 2.
So that would be 11 here, at 11 a.m. here. Okay.
We do the Lakota language class. That's expanded from New York City here. The campus is closed. NYU is closed in Greenwich Village, so I can't do that anymore. But I'm doing it on Zoom and through the TB Raisers, which are a nonprofit organization, tbraisers.org, and they contribute and they've got they put a footprint on the Pine Ridge Reservation. They're out of Denver, and I call him Denver Dave. Dave Ventimiglia is the CEO, and he brings food, clothing, and people, plumbers, carpenters, things like that, where they help people on the reservation directly. So if you want to contribute, I always say the American Indian College Fund's good, or the TB Raisers, TIPI Raisers.org, and your contribution would help anybody listening out there to directly be hands-on the poorest place in the country, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, where I'm from. So there's that. But I definitely want to catch a show. I definitely want to continue contributing. I'd love to talk to Rocco as well.
Yes.
And see how you do it. As well as seeing your family when I can get into Minneapolis at some point with my lady Susie. So
hopefully soon.
Let's keep in contact. Yep, and keep the imprint going of what's going on.
Sounds good.
Echo of what you do.
Yeah.
And what you share. And I value your friendship. I love you very much. You're my brother, and we'll make that happen.
And I love you too, my brother. It's so good to see you. It's good to have you on serendipitously this morning. It wasn't even planned. So,
my class was canceled because Dave was coming, Denver Dave was coming from the Navajo reservation, so he couldn't really host it. So we had to let it go. But I'm glad I caught you.
I'm glad you did too.
We're able to, and talk and share a little bit more in depth. And, what you do is you create awareness and you awaken consciousness in many ways, not just through your tarot, but through your show. And when you expand consciousness, you can't unexpand it. It's there. So I think that's what's great. And I read your followings of the people that listen to your show. So that's great.
Well, thank you, Reuben. All right, folks, that's Reuben FastHorse. You can find him over on, what's the best way if somebody wants to communicate with you? I know a couple of friends on the show here are on your Facebook. Is that the easiest way to find you?
Yeah. Facebook, just Reuben FastHorse. That's it.
There you go.
And you'll see me. You'll see me there. So.
And Reuben is REUBEN. So.
Like the sandwich.
There you go. Like just Reuben like the sandwich, without the kraut. Like. All right. Thanks, Reuben. I'll let you go. I appreciate your time this morning. We'll do this again.
Yes, sounds good.
All right, Misu.
Shoot me your link as to when you have your show on.
I'll do it.
The schedule.
All right.
Okay. Be well. Take care. No words in Lakota or native languages for goodbye. So we'll say Doksha, which means later.
Later. All right, brother. See you soon. Bye-bye. All right, folks. That was Reuben FastHorse. That was kind of redeemed the bit of bumping around we were doing at the beginning of this show, trying to get our legs on this morning. And so Reuben helped us do that. And he called me forgetting that I was actually on air. And that's why I answered that call. Accidentally, I was just going to type to him and say, hey, I'm doing radio right now. But I'm glad that I actually pulled him in live. So you weren't able to see him. You were able to hear him. We'll do this again. when we get some more a better opportunity to maybe get him on live visually as well. So thanks for your questions. I knew we couldn't get to a lot of them that were typed in the chat room, questions and comments, but some good stuff out there. So that gives you a little bit, just a tip of the iceberg of some of how a contemporary Native American man thinks and feels about things. And what's interesting is that Reuben and I politically were not opposed. We're on different ends of the political scale, but we still share things in common. Like we talked about Black Lives Matter. Not a big fan. So you can see that Reuben and I never have let politics come between what we love about each other and how we care for each other. So that's a good thing. And I like his take on history. I like his take on current events, how we should be acting now, his spirituality, and stuff like that. So how auspicious is that to say it that way? Stuff like that. I don't mean it quite as bad as that sounds. So there you go. And so it is now 10:22. I don't think I'm going to do readings today, folks, but I will do this for you. I'll do simple one-card readings. You go in and make a $10 PayPal payment to my paypal.me.com, whatever that is. You can go out to the main window here on my YouTube, and you'll see it in the corner of the header. You can click on that. I don't remember what the actual address is. Audrey might know. If you're still around, Audrey, if you could type that in the window, the paypal.me. Just shoot $10 over, and we'll do a one-card reading the way you see we do them here for free on the weekends. So there it is, paypal.me/Scotty Roberts 1960. Boom, there it is. And of course, I've got my regular readings that I do at the 5-card and the 10-card readings. If you'd like some of those, you can go over to my website and click on the tarot link, and you'll see those PayPal buttons there. So that's enough of that. And thank you. Unless there's anything anybody wants to talk about, I think I'm going to pretty much wrap it up in the next couple of minutes here. Right around 10:30, we'll be all done. And Sean says he's supposed to be on the Oregon coast right now for his family reunion, but it was canceled because of this China virus. Yeah, that sucks. That's affecting everything we do. You know what will really suck even more? If we find out that we could have done all this stuff anyway. I don't know that will be the case, but it'd be very interesting to see how, when this is all over, how this will all play out. So, and such a nice show, says Leslie. Great way to start your Sunday morning. I'm glad, Leslie. I'm glad you were a few minutes late, because I came in and I'd been awake for 3 hours pretty much, but my brain wasn't on and we were stumbling around. Then I was hearing a phone ring and I couldn't find the phone anywhere here. And so there's some phone concealed somewhere in this room that I couldn't find. And so we were bumbling around a bit trying to find that to turn it off. But then Reuben came in. There we go. Saved the day. Audrey says her friend just buried 3 family members, died from the virus. Yeah, that's terrible. We know people who've died as well. And so it's not that it's not a real thing. It's as real as the flu that took, 140,000 people last year, the regular flu. So it's as real as that. It's as real as anything else. It's just new to us now. And once we can figure out how to work with it, I think that's going to be a big deal then. So, yeah, circle of death. It's there, Steph. But keep in mind, we've all had family members die. I've had 5 or 6 people I love and know die in the last 10 years. So it's almost every year there's somebody that dies that we know of something. And this virus, it's just, we've got it all compressed into an area and into a certain time period. And I think we're all really being pressed to believe that this is the only thing that causes death nowadays. It's not. It's just another thing. It's another thing we have to deal with. Is it nature wanting to wipe humanity off the earth? I've heard some people say. Well, remember, humans are part of nature as well. Does nature wipe out things? It can. But there is new life. They keep recycling. It keeps going over and over again. So I think only when you put human politics onto something can we say that nature is out to kill off humanity for being a scourge on the planet. We're really not. So, because while we may do some things that hurt the environment, we're also one of the few animal species on the planet that can say, we will now constructively do things to better our environment. So we have that ability. We have reason. So if reason is the only thing that makes us bad, well, nature's going to have to deal with that. So let's see what else we got going on. What do we got? I'm just looking at some of the comments coming up. Yeah, Niall, I might be going live each day. We'll see what happens. See if we can get that all going. Start doing 9 o'clock at night and do a live show instead of pre-record. That would be nice. And I've got the ability to do it. I just haven't implemented it yet. So, what else we got? Yeah, it was a great spontaneous chat. They removed the gray wolf from Yellowstone at one point, and it forever changed the area. Yeah, you're right, Roger. Only one species removed caused a huge change, and it'd be interesting to see the world with no humans. Yeah, I think it existed a long time without humans, but then humans came on the scene. So, if we were planted here from somewhere else, maybe that's why we're the scourge on the planet. If we are part of nature, then there you go. So that's all we got, guys. 10:28. I want to thank you all for being here. Remember, every night this week, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. out east, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, next week sometime in Australia. So every night this week for the Intrepid Radio program right here, right on this stage. And what else we got? Nothing else right now. That's it. So I want to thank you for being here, starting off your Sunday morning with me, or flowing into your Sunday afternoon with me. And you all have a good day. And we'll see you again tomorrow. So bye. Get out of here. Scram. Adios. Boreda. And all that.